Good morning, everyone. I am not very good speaking standing at the podium, so if you don't mind, I'll probably walk around a little bit. It's really great to be here. Thank you for a kind invitation. I realize, I heard there are over 500 people here, and I realize I probably am the only non-journalist in this room. So I'm fairly intimidated, but at the same time, pretty excited. So I have 14 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'll try to speed up. Why am I here? I don't know, actually, but I think I can guess that you guys are going to talk about disruptive technologies and how the disruptive innovation is going to affect your industrial sector, journalism. It's happening everywhere. So I'm going to talk about disruption in aviation and how the disruptive innovations are affecting every single industrial sector and society in general. So if you could put the chart first. We talked about fourth industrial revolution. It doesn't really matter in my view whether you use that word or something else, but I like to use 21st century innovation instead of a fourth industrial revolution, because this century we have seen so many diverse innovations that really don't fit in the traditional, the past three industrial revolutions. It's multiple, and it's concurrent, and it cannot be predictable. You cannot predict which one will come out next year and which one will come out 2 years from now. So I just listed just few there. And there's a common theme in all these new capabilities and new technologies. That is digital revolution, which started happening mid-century, 20th century, and that digital revolution has been accelerated at the speed that no one was expecting, and it starts spawning all these various amazing technologies. And there's another thing, that these technologies are coming together in the way that no one actually imagined. So that's why we are using disruption, because some of these technologies are so rapidly expanding, and the effect is so great that it actually destroys or puts out the existing businesses with these new capabilities. You know, Sears, which was the department retail store, has filed a bankruptcy, and Amazon and then all the other online retail business put out the traditional brick and mortar companies. And then Netflix and that online streaming technology put out all these video rental places like Blockbuster. They don't exist anymore. So that's why we're using this very unfamiliar word called disruption in this technological revolution. Next, please. Oh, sorry. I have the control here. Sorry about that. So revolution in aviation, much like that you are trying to address and you are trying to embrace these disruptive technologies. In aviation, we see the same thing. So traditionally, when you talk about aviation, you think of this long, round fuselage, and with the two wings sticking out and engines either mounted under the wings or somewhere. But we don't have to stick to that kind of design anymore, mainly because of the several disruptive technologies coming to aviation industry. One is, of course, electrification. So you don't need two giant gas turbine engines or 4 gas turbine engines to drive airplanes. You can locate many smaller electric motors and drive fans or propellers. So it changes the design, the conventional design completely. You don't have to rely on the previous design and try to improve that. And there are so many technologies like that, autonomy. Today, I don't want to scare you. This is not meant to scare anybody. The large commercial airline aircraft can take off automatically, cruise automatically, and land automatically. I actually sat in jumper seat one time from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to JFK in New York. The pilot didn't do anything. We were just yakking. We were just chatting. And the very last minute, the airplane had to be slowed down so that some other airplane can fit in there. So at the very last minute, he took the side stick. This was an Airbus airplane, so instead of yoke, there was a side stick. So he started flying. That was last probably 2 minutes. And when we landed, he joked to me that, Jay, I only flew this airplane to prove to you that I am actually certified a pilot. So automation is there, but when we say autonomy, it is at a different level. Automation is only able for humans to program and tell the machines that do exactly what we are telling you. But autonomy is now the machine learning and artificial intelligence and sensing. They can actually cope with unexpected, unprogrammed situations. And that's the difference, huge difference between automation and autonomy. So what's going to happen in aviation, which will happen to your industry as well, is totally different ways of doing things. And I'll show you some of the happenings or the developments in the aviation sector. Next, I gotta do that. Sorry. Back in early 2000, we started worrying about how do we bring back these military assets, Predators and Global Hawks, kind of a very sophisticated, really a lot of capability embedded in this urban, I should say, unmanned aerial systems, UAS. That was what we were worrying about because these aircraft were supposed to fly in the same altitude with the same capability as manned airplanes. And we don't want to carry these important assets on the truck between Air Force bases or military bases. So we had to worry about how do we bring these assets from the battlefield and then integrate into national airspace. That was what we were worrying about, and NASA was working on that. And then about 10 years later, these drones, you just saw a drone show a few minutes ago. How big were they? I could probably put one of them in my hand, in my palm. The miniaturization of sensors and the development of software to control these small drones have become so prevalent and so advanced that imagine that doing things that those huge Global Hawks could do, that these drones cannot do exactly the same things that Global Hawks can do, but some of the main functions, sensing and avoid and kind of fly in harmony, as you saw in drone show, those are extremely difficult techniques. So those things are becoming available for these small drones. And as FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, predicts that this year, in the US alone, there could be 7 million drones. I showed the conventional airline airplanes. There are only about 26,000 airplanes around the world. So for those of you who travel and visited Seoul, you were riding one of those 26,000 airplanes. Compared to that number, very small number, to 7 million or in any millions, we're talking completely different era. And they are all flying at low altitude, below 500 feet. And we never had any man-made flying objects in those low altitude. So we started worrying about how do we manage these drones safely and efficiently. So NASA started working on this new air traffic management system to control and manage these assets. So that's how fast, that's how rapidly the aviation is changing. In just 20 years, things that we have never expected. Now, I talked about large, very capable UAS to very small drones. And now people start thinking, wait a minute, all this electrification and autonomy can actually develop aircraft that will carry people and cargo in a very different way than conventional airlines can. And so people start thinking about how do we address this rapid urbanization and insufficient ground infrastructure. And I hope the visitors will not suffer the traffic problem in Seoul much, but you will probably see some of that. It is everywhere, right? I used to live in Washington, D.C. area, only 20 miles, less than 20 miles commute. It took 1 hour, solid 1 hour. And if there is an accident, the congressman and you probably are very familiar with that situation. If there is an accident, hour and a half or 2 hours, you're done. So how do we address this? This is a global issue, and new transportation system is needed, and the only way to address this traffic congestion and rapid urbanization is open up the sky. Open the sky. And we knew that for a long time, but we couldn't do it because there was no technology to support that. What you see there is a real picture in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And I'm not singling out Sao Paulo here. It's everywhere. Some 25 mega cities around the world, we see cars just everywhere. So my nephew lives in Silicon Valley, and they have a new word for the freeway there. It's a parking lot. So they call it parking lot rather than highway or freeway. People ask me, well, we have helicopters. Why couldn't helicopters solve this problem? We could, but it's very noisy. So all those very developed countries actually banned the commercial operation of helicopters in city centers for carrying people and sort of augmenting the ground traffic. And the noise, you probably don't want these helicopters flying around and landing or take off behind your home. So this cannot be the way to do it. And because of that low volume and extremely limited operation, the operating cost is so high. So if you have $2,000 to spare to fly about 8 minutes from Manhattan to JFK, you still can get that service, but not me. I can't afford that. So that's why the world is going crazy in utilizing these new technologies. Can we actually solve this problem environmentally friendly and economically, so everybody, not just very rich people, the example I just used, but for general public, but augment and alleviate the ground traffic problem. So hence, urban air mobility market and community is sprawling up. And currently there are about over 200 companies, small, medium, large, startups and very traditional aviation bellwethers all around the world. They are working to open up this market. So Hyundai Motor Group also started this, and that's why I'm here. And I think this is very important. Okay, the monitor is flashing. So there are a lot of challenges. So I'm not trying to paint that this is a fantasy, and if we do this, everything will be taken care of. There are a lot of issues. That's to the left, the fatal accident rate in million departures. That's a real number, and the probability based on real accident data record. That's the probability number. So to break down. This is not a statistically meaningful way to say it, but what that means, if you fly once every day, starting tomorrow, the probability, I keep emphasizing probability, not the certainty, probability of you getting into fatal accident, you have to fly 13,000 years, starting from tomorrow. So what that means is probability-wise, it's impossible, or near impossible for you to get into fatal accident by flying commercial airlines. So we built that. Industry, we built that through methodical ways to ensure the safety. And so safety is very important. Where do we need to fit? And then I talked about noise. We have to reduce at least 4 times as quiet as compared to the helicopter industry. So it's a daunting task, but electrification and advanced flight controls probably will allow us to get there in time. So my closing is, sorry to hurry up here, my closing is, this is environmentally friendly way and energy friendly way to alleviate and augment the ground traffic congestion that all these 25 or 30 or even 50 as time goes by, mega cities will face. So I think that's the kind of disruptive innovation that we're working in aviation. And the final comment is disruptive innovation, as you will be discussing this afternoon, will affect your industries in a significant way as it is affecting aviation industry. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.